The majority of lower back pain that people experience appears to simply be a result of weakened spinal muscles, and this can be fixed. I'm going to read a quote here from a resource that I'm going to link in the comments so you can read it for yourself. On page 38, it says, "This patient suffered chronic lower back pain for 12 years prior to the date of his first test. Pain that has not returned for a period of more than 6 years following the second test. We can deal with the majority of lower back pain, and it's not being done, and here's why." Here's another quote from the resource that I'm going to link in the description. "Most of the exercises now being used for the lower back have no effect on the spinal muscles. They will increase the strength of the hip and thigh muscles, but will not help the spinal muscles." This document was produced by doctors who were using the Med-X machine. Chances are you don't have access to that, but I'm going to show you 2 examples of me exercising, and I want you to tell me which one you think is using my spinal muscles and which one is not. Now, straight away, obviously, one of these exercises looks more impressive than the other. One is producing more movement, and one of them sort of looks pathetic. Now, people generally don't go to the gym because they want to look pathetic, but of course, if you want to actually do a good workout for your spine muscles, you have to isolate them, and the more pathetic looking exercise here is the one that's actually effective. What commercial equipment makers do is they'll always add this anchor point where you can put your heels somewhere to create a reaction force so that you can activate the glutes and the hamstrings to get a larger range of motion, but now you're just exercising a completely different set of muscles and you're not even really doing it well anyway. So these machines by themselves, when used as intended, are just basically bad at everything, and they're not good at exercising your back. This is a piece of equipment you're more likely to have seen at a gym, and as you can see, once again they've put this ridge at the back here to activate the glutes and the hamstrings, but the problem is we don't want to do that. So the way I usually try and circumvent this is I use one of these sandbag things and place it at the top. Spend a moment trying to position yourself and then tense the glutes to try and confirm that you're not using your legs to be able to launch your torso backwards. And then proceed to do the reps. You're unlikely to have a machine like this, but the advantage of this is if I were to tense my glutes, that would only lift my legs up and it wouldn't help me, because unless you have incredible concentration and you've really built up your connection to your muscles, you're always going to naturally use whatever advantage you have to complete the movement. We shouldn't be focusing on the movement as much as we are focusing on exercising the muscle that we want to exercise. Because you can't really add weight to this exercise, I had to do more reps, and it took about 2 minutes to do my 1 set, which I always do 1 set per exercise. But this is targeting more of the lower spine, so in my next set I added weight, but because I've got extra weight, I had to reposition myself to balance out the forces. But this means that on the second set, I'm targeting more the thoracic spine or the upper spine, whereas the previous exercise was focusing on the lower spine. So I never do multiple sets per exercise, but I consider this to be 2 different exercises. And you could always do something on the floor like this, because it's got to be better than nothing. Now I have one more quote that I want to share with you, and this one is actually pretty tragic, because these medical doctors, these researchers who did this research, they predict the impact that their research is going to have. And will this be used to help people with back pain? Here's what they say. The current costs related to spinal injury being what they are, eventually it will be done. Within the last 50 years, prevention has reduced dental problems by more than 60%, and 50 years from now, lower back problems will be reduced by at least 50%, reduced by prevention by specific exercise. Here's the thing, this research was done over 30 years ago. And since that time, exercise science has got worse, not better. I have personally witnessed a young person with a college degree in sports and exercise science obtain illegal painkillers in order to get through a job interview to be a personal trainer because they're so bad at exercise that they used it to ruin their own back, and now they're going to go out and teach other people how to do the same. You cannot rely on these bullshit degrees and these bullshit certifications. These people don't know any of the research. They're terrible scientists. They suck at exercise. You cannot trust them. These scientists, they credit Arthur Jones in their research. I spent 3 years on an exercise science, sports science degree. I had never heard of Arthur Jones, not once. And I'd never heard of this research. I had to find this stuff out myself. So we've had this recent controversy with Solomon Nelson exposing Mike Israetel's PhD and how rubbish it was. This is the real cost. This is what's happened. The academia and this sort of cartel of people just producing these bullshit credentials have come in and they've produced this huge amount of spam and this huge amount of noise and marketing and trying to get everyone's attention, trying to get as many customers as they can, latch on to people who have any credibility or any athletes who have any results that they can attach onto like a leech and like get credit for their accomplishments. And the effect of that is that good research gets buried. Okay, no one has replicated or done good research the way they were doing back then. And it's not just Mike Israetel, okay? You've got Tudor Bomper, who I've talked about in my previous YouTubes. And I've got to give credit to Lyle McDonald for talking about Schoenfeld, who's another big guy, apparently creating textbooks. I believe maybe he was on the textbooks I was reading back in the day. But you look at these researchers from 30 years ago and they've considered so many things in trying to control this experiment and trying to figure out how to actually accurately measure strength. And then you've got these idiots who just put together some rubbish, totally rubbish experiment and then just say, oh yeah, we figured it all out. This science thing is totally easy. And they come out with a big confidence and big statements and just act like they're really amazing. They're going to fake it till they make it. And everyone just goes along with it. These people are useless, okay? And the reason this future hasn't manifested or isn't apparently manifesting where people can actually deal with their back pain and all of the problems associated with that is because of all these pointless wankers have come in and just filled in that space. So hopefully there's an opportunity now for people who are credible to actually stand up and bring forward good information. So I'll leave you with that.